So, fuck. Oh, I hate talking about myself. Why did I agree to do this? um, I really don't know why I agreed to do this. Let me bring up my notes and questions. The people wanted it. Yeah, the people asked for it. I am a man of the people. I'll do what they want. But so yeah. So I guess as I was starting to think about these type of things, what I guess what I wanted to talk about, and um, I don't even know where to start. But I guess I started pulling on the thread of that sort of stuff, and the more I kept pulling on that, the further and further I kind of went back, and basically by the end of it, I ended up back at the start of where I started playing games. So that's kind of um, in the late 80s, really. So I remember being quite young. I don't remember how old I was. I remember being quite young and visiting my cousins. And so my cousins had an NES, which was the Mattel version, and I remember having a NES Zapper chucked in my hands. It's genuinely one of my earlier memories. So I was probably maybe it was the early 90s by this stage. I might have been four if I'm like actually forming this memory and making it myself. But I just remember being in a dark room with an NES Zapper in my hand and just shooting ducks endlessly as I visited my cousins. So I guess if I'm trying to what I'm trying to say is that I've been playing games for quite a while. Um, Basically, as long as I can remember. And the initially, I guess I didn't. My family didn't have a console, so I'm the oldest of three kids, um, and we never had a console starting out. But then my cousins upgraded from their original Nintendo, as we called it at the time, um, to a Super Nintendo. And so I don't know whether mum and dad paid for it or whether they just got it as a hand me down, but that meant that me and my brothers got our cousins' NES as a hand me down from them because they had the shiny new Super Nintendo. They didn't need it, and they didn't need the OG NES anymore. So I don't actually know when the Super Nintendo came out in Australia. When was the release? I reckon it was probably like 92. Yeah, it was 92. And I don't know how um I don't know how far in, like whether it was later than that. It was probably even later than that. Because I don't remember the house that we lived in 92, we definitely didn't have it. Because um I guess my growing up, my family moved all over the place. So by the time that I had turned 10, I think I'd lived in eight different houses or something. Um, I'd been all over the place basically, and my dad worked for a bank, and so every time he got promoted, being a country banker, it meant that he was moved off to a new town. It wasn't like being a banker in the suburbs where every new job, you just drove to a new suburb that was 20 minutes down the road. It was literally driving from one end of the state to the other in some cases. So um, moved from moved from all over the place. Like lived right up on the Murray River, right up in the north of Victoria, all the way down to right near Wilson's Prom, down in the south. So, or Wilson's Promontory for non Australians, non Victorians that are listening. But we were kind of all over the place, and yeah, so it must have been into '93 when we got that original Nintendo, as we called it. We only got a couple of games with it. I remember, like, we played them all to death, played them to absolute death. Of course, had the original Super Mario Brothers Duck Hunt cartridge that seemingly everybody had. Um, the other game that I remember playing a lot of at the time was Snake Rattle and Roll, which was actually another Rare game. So we played a bunch of that type of stuff. Um, and then the the game that I still have like the big nostalgia pangs for was there's a cricket game. So North American people won't even have an idea what cricket is, but the concept is like baseball. You're scoring runs, but instead of single digit score is okay in baseball. You know, single digits are bad in cricket. In cricket, they're scoring you know multiple hundreds. 300 is a reasonable cricket score. So yeah, played a bunch of that, and but that meant we were a generation behind. So we were never playing the latest versions of games. So in some ways, I guess I've always kind of been a retro gamer in that regard. Although the NES was still, you could still buy brand new games for the NES at that time. So it was kind of it was there, but we never got a Super Nintendo, and then the N64 came out, and I that was the first console that actually came out that I remember jonesing for or wanting. Um, I guess as it came out, I wasn't aware of I wasn't reading gaming magazines or anything like that yet, but I remember walking past. I had this really odd memory about walking past like toy shops, and the N64 had this capability to recognize whether the controller was in the port or not. So like if you turn Super Mario 64 on and it just says no controller across the bottom. And to me, as I guess I would have been like 11 or 12 when this all happened, that was just mind blowing that this console knows whether there's a controller plugged into it or not. Like that was more mind blowing to me than 3D. Um, and I don't know why. So yeah, I mean, I'm an internet boomer. Talking of the internet, all right. So sidetrack. I remember the first time that I went on the internet, um, and the internet, like it, to people who have grown up with it. Shit. I'm about to go further down the rabbit hole. All right, I rang my grandmother last week because I'm a good grandson, and they're in lockdown where she lives as well. So I was on for a bit of a chat, and I made a bit of an observation to her that literally having a telephone line to her is what having a TV was like to my parents, which is what having a mobile phone or cell phone is going to be like to the generation younger than me. And I guess what I mean by that is I have this really clear memory of talking to my parents while I was growing up about TV. And TV didn't come to Australia until 1956. So basically the main reason it came out was Melbourne had the Olympic Games in 1956, but it was Melbourne. But Australia was a long way behind North America in picking up TV and getting it getting it out. There was radio everywhere, but TV wasn't around, and color TV didn't even come out in Australia until the mid 70s. So a long way behind. But both of my parents were born in the 50s, and it wasn't common for Australians to have a TV set in their house when my parents were growing up. Like both of my parents were into what we call primary school. Um, for North Americans, I guess it's a junior school. I don't know. It's like your first grade. So when you're age 5, age 6, 7, 8, 9, you're in primary school. So both of my parents were in primary school when their family kind of finally got TV in the early 60s, and even then it would have only been black and white TV. But as I was growing up, TV was ubiquitous. Everybody had TV. Plenty of families had multiple TV sets. I just, when I was a younger kid, I had no concept that there was a time before TV. And was talking to my grandmother, and she grew up in houses that didn't have phones. She was growing up on farms and orchards that didn't have phones, and even when she did get a phone, she had a gang or a party phone line, and so that meant that's one phone line shared between 6, 7, or 8 houses or something like that. And the way that you know that it's your phone number is that the way that the phone is ringing, it's ringing in Morse code. So you need to remember what the last character of that Morse code is to know whether you pick it up. And even then, you've got no privacy because anybody else who's on that party line can just pick their phone up, isn't be ready to make a phone call themselves or listen in on your phone call or anything like that. And then kids these days are going to grow up and cell phones were not ubiquitous for me as I was growing up. But kids these days are going to think that everybody's had a cell phone since day dot, walking around with the internet in your pocket. But I really distinctly remember the first time that I used the internet, which was in 1995, which was still quite early. And uh, and everybody, like if you weren't there, it's kind of hard to describe, but everybody was into the Bulls and Michael Jordan in the 90s. So I remember the first I remember the first place I went to was NBA.com. That was the first website that I went to. I didn't know about search engines. They weren't a thing. Um, I mean, in the late 90s, the search engine that you used could be part of your identifier. Like that was part of your identity. So but I do in '95. I remember going to this. It was basically plain black, and that would have had like 20 by 20 pixel renditions of all of the NBA teams, their their logos, and naturally it was on dial up, of course, so it had the dial up handshake noise, and yeah, it was kind of weird. I was at one of my mum's friends' houses, and she was an early adopter of technology, and so I had this internet connection already. And my school didn't even have an internet connection at that stage. Like the internet didn't really start blowing up until like '96. In '96, it started becoming more common, but even then, into I remember in '96 there was one school in my computer that had sorry one computer in my school that had an internet connection. Uh, and so we would all, we would want to take turns using that. And then my school got a new library in like '97, and all of the computers in the library had an internet connection. And my search engine that I used was Lycos. I didn't want to use the big Alta Vista for some reason. I used Lycos. I don't really know why I made that decision. Preteens are stupid. Um, and the other overwhelming internet memory I have from that time is that this is in like season 1 and season 2 of South Park. So particularly being the oldest child, I wasn't allowed to watch South Park at home. I had friends that I would go and visit, and I would watch South Park at their place because they were the youngest, and their parents realized that, oh yeah, you can't fuck them up any more than what they are. So I watched South Park around at friends' places, and South Park fan sites were quite big in this kind of period in 97, 98. Uh, I remember the one that we used to go to frequently was a website called sweet.com. So like Cartman said it. So it was sweet with three E's, but there was also sweet with two E's, which was a porn site. So if you mistyped sweet.com, if you're just trying to look at some South Park memes, uh, you would accidentally get porn. I mean, it was probably pretty soft stuff. I can't remember. I just remember the background being all like pink. Um, but there's an internet tangent. Uh, so around that kind of period, 97, 98. Well, actually, it was definitely into 98. So me and my brother's been playing NES all that time up through to 98. And then we'd been at our parents for a little while to try and get us some pocket money. Like we just wanted some pocket money to be able to. Never had pocket money. Some of our friends did. You know, they could go and buy lollies or something. And then so so my parents started agreeing to give us pocket money. It wasn't much. It was like half your age of Fortnite or something. So it's 98. I'm 12. So I get $6 a fortnight. Even that sounds like too much. Might have even been $6 a month. It wasn't much. Uh, but then being the asshole that I am, I really wanted an N64. And so I don't know how I convinced my parents to let me do this. Um, I remember at the time the N64 cost 200 Aussie dollars. And I remember my dad bought a pair of sunglasses for $210 while we were on holidays. And so I remember being at him for like weeks after this, like, those sunglasses cost more than an N64. Dad, we could have an N64. Come on, please, we need one. And this was also around, I don't know why I distinctly remember this. It's probably because we got this. So this was in the 1998. There was a swimming world championships held. I can't remember if it was world championships or like Pan Pacific event, but there was a major swimming meet that was held in Perth, and there was a swimmer, an Aussie swimmer there called Michael Klim, and Michael Klim won a lot of gold medals. And so the current promotion for the N64 was that you could get a gold controller with it, which the ad for it had Michael Klim with the gold controller draped around his neck like it was a gold medal. And so somehow I convinced my parents to let me and and I convinced my parents and I convinced my brothers that we could pool not only our current pocket money, but the really obscene part was our future earnings of pocket money in order to get an N64 now. So I got a loan from my parents. And so I remember sitting there with a piece of paper and doing the math explicitly, so I've got this allowance or this pocket money, and it's half my age and it's half my brother's age and it's half of my youngest brother's age as well. So I would have been 12. I would have been getting $6 over whatever period. My middle brother would have been 10, so he would have been getting five, and um, and my youngest brother would have been 7, so he would have been getting $3.50. And so I sat there and I did the maths to multiply it out by how many weeks we would all need to save our pocket money in in order to buy an $200 N64. And then I showed this to mum and dad, and I got no idea how they agreed to it, but they agreed to it. So it was like, you don't, okay, so you don't get any pocket money for, I mean, it must have been 6 or 9 months at least. Um, it was, I have a feeling it worked out at like 56 weeks or something ridiculous. I don't really remember the exact weeks, but that was how I got an N64. Uh, Unsurprisingly, we never got any pocket money again. It never started after me pulling those shenanigans. We never got any more pocket money again. But we did have an N64, so I'd won the battle. I might have lost the war, but I won that battle, and it was an important battle. I remember the first game we got with the N64 was F1 pole position, and the reason that we picked that game was that we bought our console from Target because it not only had the gold controller, the gold Michael Klim controller, but included in the price of the N64, it actually came with a game, which was pretty uncommon at the time. So I think the I have a feeling like it was like $189 including a game. Target were discounting it down, and so but you could only pick one of like 5 games. Um, None of them were big marquee titles, but there were games. So um, we got this F1 pole position game, and I guess I'm probably exposing there. Yeah, I've been a motorsport nut since day dot. That's been ingrained into me. Yeah, my father's been a big motorsport follower all his life too, so that's where that kind of came from. So we started playing that game, and then this must have been really early in '98 because so maybe I wasn't even 12 yet. I was probably 11, so I would have been getting $5.50 a fortnight. I don't know. Um, well, the reason I'm saying that's early, so my brother's birthday is in April, and not long after we got the N64, it was his birthday, and his choice of a birthday present was, or pulling the money that he'd got for his birthday. He got Nagano '98. So Nagano was where the Winter Olympics were held, and the I think our logic there was like, oh, look at this game! It's got like 12 different games built into it. Again, showing the stupidity of children picking video games. Like it was such a bad game, but we spent hours and hours just playing and being terrible at them because the mini games, well, not mini games, but the downhill skiing and luge and all that kind of stuff. They're quite like as a kid they were really obscure. Um, but we'd progressively go through and we'd pick up. We didn't have a lot of N64 games. Like we would get a game. We'd probably get a game for Christmas and our birthday, and that was about it. Uh, I think by the end of the lifespan of the N64, I think we had 12 or 15 games. Like we didn't have many. We didn't have every release by any means, but trading carts trading carts with friends was pretty common. Uh, but I do remember, and because carts are so easy to pick up, like friends that had N64s would just grab a cartridge and bring that around to the house, and we'd play that. I remember a mate of mine bringing around his Super Mario 64 that already had 120 stars completed, and we'd run around and playing that a little bit. But I never played Super Mario 64 from at least from the start. Like I played a little bit of it, but only on his file. Uh, GoldenEye, I got my own copy of after playing it at friends' places, and would play. We'd play a lot of multi as well. I could only ever beat the game on Agent. There was some levels that I could do Secret Agent. I've still actually got that same N64 and GoldenEye cartridge. I've still actually got all my original cartridges because even though we got the NES as a hand me down, we never had to get rid of the NES. Um, I don't know why our parents didn't make us throw it out or something like a lot of parents did, but we were pretty lucky. We were able to just hold on to that stuff, and even though we had the N64, we would still semi regularly, once every 6 months or so, we would pull out the NES to play that cricket game. Like that, there's something. It's so charmingly shithouse. Uh, so we would regularly pull that out and play it. Um, but yeah, I had GoldenEye at the time. It was played a fair bit of GoldenEye. Um, 99, I started high school, and I would walk to. So what was different about high school as opposed to my primary school is that was that it was in walking distance from my house. So my parents would uh, would drop me off at when I was at primary school. My parents would drop me off and they'd pick me up, and we had people to watch us after school and all that kind of stuff. Whereas once I started going to high school, I just walked to school, and it wasn't a long walk. It was like 10 minutes or 15 minutes or something. So I had this time in the house, uh, both before and after school, with nobody else there because mum and dad had gone to work and my brothers had gone to the school. So I had 15 minutes or something, 20 minutes every morning to sit there and play. I would play games by myself, uh, and then particularly just walking home from school. I have some really clear memories of that period of walking home after school and playing games with friends. There's one guy that I walked home. I didn't know him too well. Like I knew who. Well, it wasn't a giant school. There was there was about 300 people in my year level. Uh, so it was pretty big, but it wasn't ginormous. But there was this guy that I used to walk home with after school, and I remember walking home with him every day for probably, I don't know, 2 weeks or something, because I had finished Donkey Kong 64 and got 100% on it, and he'd found that out. So, and he was stuck on some stuff, so I basically went around there and helped him out, get him get get 101% really on Goldeneye, or not Goldeneye, on Donkey Kong 64. Um, but yeah, always there was two games that got played more than any other in that console, which was Mario Kart 64. Would play through that regularly. Like I would play through the Special Cup just to listen to the credits theme, because the credits theme was so cool. And there's no YouTube or anything like that back in the day. You can't there's no game music on demand. If you want to listen to that epic song, you've got to earn it. And so if I only had one friend there, then we'd always play a cup versus the computer, and then we'd play a lot of multiplayer in Goldeneye as well. And then one day, one of my friends just absolutely started destroying me, and I couldn't work out why it was. He was literally running circles and circles around me. He's like, "Yeah, you just strafe." And I'm like, "What?" "Yeah, you just strafe." I'm like, I knew about the C right strafed, and I knew that strafe movement was faster, but I didn't understand this circle movement that he was putting on me. And what it was is that he'd learned to play 1.2. So his brother had got Turok, Turok 2, I think it was. And so he'd learned to play Turok style control, which was 1.2. And so he'd switched over and playing that in multi and was running literally rings around me. So like there and then, I didn't even wait for him to piss off and try to learn to play it separately. No, just as soon as he'd actually said to me, "Oh yeah, just change it to 1.2 as well." I changed to 1.2 in that would have been in '99, and I've never played Perfect Dark in 1.1. Um, I mean, the other part was is our sticks were probably pretty busted. Like that, neither of us had Mario Party yet, but the sticks still got worn out. Um, so the sticks probably weren't great either. So like 1.2 was extra good. Uh, and it just intuitively made sense to me that it was a better control style because like I was thinking in a multiplayer context, not a single player context, but the fact that you could look up and down was really important. Um, because one of our favorite levels to play was the top half of library or stack or it's not basement because basement is definitely the bottom. And I always make up stack sounds like it should be all of it, but it's not. I think it's library that's all of it, and stack is just the top half. So we would play stack quite a lot, and so the fact that you could be on the top rails on the top level of stack and then looking down for playing 1.2, that was the main reason why I wanted to play with it. And then because we'd all congregate into those giant square rooms, and it's around those square rooms where Jeff is this guy's name. Jeff was running literal circles around me, so I switched over and started trying to shoot him from the top levels of stack. Uh, so been a 1.2 for a very 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 long time. Somewhere around here, I had started getting video game magazines. There was a particular one called N64 Gamer that I got a subscription to, and that was an Australian magazine. It was probably one of the reasons why I wanted that because games would come out in Australia months and months after they would come out, even in the UK. So we had our own release schedule. So it wasn't if you're reading the international gaming magazines, they weren't up to they just weren't up to date. Like they were too far ahead of date rather than not up to date. And so I started reading these gaming magazines, and GoldenEye was revered in these. Uh, I remember seeing some games come out, and Perfect Dark was just absolutely hyped from day one. As soon as anybody was aware of it, it was insanely hyped. And uh, like again, still early days of the internet, but I remember going to like there was PD fan sites that existed before the game had even come out. So I was like pdark.com, I reckon was the name of one of them. Um, and then you wouldn't find all of these places by googling for them. They had their panels down the left and right hand sides for other similar fan sites. I remember like there was one that I used to go to all the time called like Nintendo Land. That was just like a history of Nintendo and the consoles that came out. Like Wikipedia's not wasn't a thing yet. So there wasn't like one place for you to go to find the history of things. You had to find all of these little disparate fan sites that existed all over the place. Uh, and so there were all these Perfect Dark fan sites where they linked around to each other. And I remember having a 1.4 meg floppy, was a 3.5 inch. Wasn't particularly floppy by that stage. It was the five and the quarters that were the proper floppy disks, but a 3.5 inch 1.4 meg floppy. And I would carry that around in my school bag I would just go to the library at lunch and pop this disc in because it had like maybe three or four Perfect Dark photos stored in perfect 480p quality, you know. But like that's how keen I was for Perfect Dark to come out. Uh, is that I would carry around this disc in my bag and just go and look at it at lunch in the library. So like the anticipation for Perfect Dark was insanely off the chart. I Perfect Dark I was basically going to love no matter what. Uh, And then Perfect Dark in Australia was basically released on my birthday. I want to say it was released on my birthday, but I don't know that. I feel like I woke up on my birthday and it was there. So maybe it was released a couple of days earlier so that my mum and dad could go and pick that up and then wrap it and give it to me. But I definitely got it in my birthday week in 2000. So I got Perfect Dark for my 14th birthday. And first thing I would have done would have been change. First thing that I did was change the controls to 1.2, and then I just started playing the game, and I absolutely loved it. Fell in love with the game, and Perfect Dark, similar to GoldenEye. I just loved the spaces of the game. Like I would go to Chicago and just go and hang out in the Pond Punk bar. I didn't. I had no concept of what a strip bar was. I didn't know that it was a strip bar. I just thought it was a bar, a pub. I understood what a pub was. I was too innocent to know what a strip bar was at 14. um, so I didn't know that it was actually a strip bar. But we'd just go and hang out in these spaces. And Perfect Dark was even harder than GoldenEye. Um, I I couldn't GoldenEye. I could beat a few levels on. Yeah, exactly, JD. Mate, just waiting for the Chicago ghost to come along and kill me. But strangely, I mean, maybe ironically, considering how much I hate it as a speedrunning level, I really liked G5. There was something about that level. It was probably also like Chicago was really cool. But yeah, G5 and Chicago were the two that I really loved at the time. I just enjoyed playing around in those spaces. I think G5 was. I just thought G5 was really cool. How you got to use like the cam spy to capture the meeting, and the mid level cutscene just felt. Um, I've never been to real Chicago, Tyler. Hopefully, I can get there one day. But I, maybe I'll. Who knows? Yeah, G5 was cool. The mid level cinema was something. It felt pretty unique at the time. In GoldenEye, my favorite level was Caverns, and again, it was just because I kind of loved the space. Like the spiral just felt like a really cool idea, and the radio room was just like a fun area to play around with. I loved that you could shoot the boxes and they became smaller boxes and then smaller boxes and then smaller boxes, and that you could get the double AR 33. Um, and I went back, I don't know when it was, but went back to my childhood file and had a look at my fastest completion time on Caverns Agent, and it was 13 minutes and 54 seconds or something like that. So like, was not playing these games in a speed sense back then. I just really enjoyed playing in the just in the physical spaces. There was a few cheats that I tried to unlock. The only one that I really remember grinding for and getting, and it felt like a grind, but it probably just meant that I spent 45 minutes or an hour or something going for it, was damn secret agent to unlock paintball mode, which considering how easy it is to unlock now, but like there was no video references to do that. So I remember running through the level multiple times. It might have only even been 20 minutes, but just repeating the same level over multiple times to try and get a faster time. That that felt so obscene as a concept. Like it felt so far out of my experience zone. And so I remember playing, yeah, Damn SA. It felt like 20 minutes or half an hour or something, and getting 239 to unlock the cheat, and going, yeah, you know. But I also knew that obviously invincibility on facility at 205, I had no concept of how to unlock that cheat at all. I could not visualize it. I don't think I was smart enough then to break it down into smaller chunks and to think about playing it on agent first to try and learn it. I think facility is one of the levels that I had actually played through and beaten on double O agent because you can, as a casual game, you can be quite slow and controlled as you move through facility. So I feel like I'd beaten it on double O, but you know, I know, I would have had 12 or 15 minutes or something as a time. Like it just so far beyond getting a cheat. And yeah, just had no, had no idea about how to speed game it, basically. I remember visiting my cousin around a similar time, and his cart was unlocked with 007 mode. And so this is a different cousin that I played um, than I played the original Nintendo with. This cousin was younger than me. It was in between my middle brother and my youngest brother. So he was, if I'm kind of like 14 at this time, he's probably 10, and he's got an unlocked GoldenEye cart. And what he told me was that his next door neighbor had actually unlocked it for him. So his next door neighbor was like 21 or something. And the fact that somebody was so good at GoldenEye that they could just take somebody's cartridge for an afternoon and unlock 007 mode was mind blowing to me. Like it was, I couldn't even beat the game on Secret Agent. And here's this guy who can just pick the game up and and beat it in an afternoon. That was, I remember that being mind blowing to me. And I don't know if it was exactly around this time, uh, but it was in this kind of Perfect Dark era that I found the Elite for the first time. So kind of by now I'm 15, and in 2001 I get my between 14 and 15 I got a paper round, and so I earned a grand total of $27 a week on my paper round. And so like it sounds like the stories that your grandparents would tell you, oh, it was uphill into the wind both ways, all the way to and from school. Well, I mean, it kind of was for me. My paper round was literally up the other end of town. So my parents lived on the eastern extremity. Well, they still do live on the eastern extremity of my hometown. I would then have to ride into the CBD, the central business district of that town. To call it that's probably a bit overstating it, but I would ride into town. I would collect my batch of 30 odd papers, and then I would ride to the extreme western end to deliver my paper route, or sorry, paper route, you North Americans, and then I would ride home. So in all of that, I've got about I've got about 5Ks to get from, maybe even 6Ks to get from my parents' place into town. And then it's another 5Ks up the other end of town. And then I turn around and ride home. So by, you know, 7 o'clock in the morning or whatever it is, by the time I get home, 6:30, 7 o'clock, I've already ridden 20Ks for the day. And all of that for a grand total of $3. Um, and if I happen to get what they called no miss bonus, so that meant that if I delivered every single paper, every single one of those 7 days, I would get a $6 no miss bonus. So $3 a day, $21, $6 no miss bonus makes $27 for a week, and I've ridden 140Ks and delivered 200 and something papers in order to get this. So I really, really, really wanted money, clearly. Um, I got a job in high school at Kmart, and I remember my job interview to get this job. Um, was I walked in and you know I'm barely 15. I'm probably 14 and 9 months or something, and um, and the manager asks me, "Oh, so the section that we're interviewing you for today is the apparel section. Do you know what apparel is?" And my response was, "Oh yeah, it's clothes and stuff." And I think I got the job because I knew what the word apparel meant. I have no other reason why, no idea why they would hire me. I mean, I did get less than $6 an hour. I think I got 5.25 an hour. Um, this is 2001, and uh, and Sundays I got time and a half. So what's that make it? That's $7.50 or something. I think was my Sunday rate initially, and then yeah, eventually it started going up, but it was a pittance. I think I would work. Jeez, I was cheap. I would work. If I'm working a 3 hour shift at $5 an hour, I'm working. Yeah, I'm working a fair bit for like $30 there too. Anyway, I'd at least managed to save up enough money out of that to get a GameCube pretty close to the GameCube's release window. I don't think I actually got it on release day, but I got a GameCube reasonably early there. It's kind of in this era, still on dial-up internet. Uh, I remember my family would buy internet not by a day, not by the month connection, but we would buy internet in batches of hours. So we would buy 100 hours of internet, and that would last us months and months and months. So it's in these days of dial-up internet that I remember finding the Elite for the first time, and this is the Elite. I mean, YouTube doesn't exist. The first time I see the Elite, video downloads are not really going to be a thing, and they definitely weren't a thing for me at my parents' place because my mum and dad's place is so far away from the telephone exchange that on a good day when we got lucky, we would connect at 32.2 kilobits a second. Most of the time, we would connect at 28.8. Like it was disgustingly slow. It was so slow. Even just loading a basic text web page would take, you know, 30 seconds a minute or something. You would want to be really sure that that's the place that you want to go, and you would scan the page for links in the page to click on those links and start loading those as well. This is in the pre-tab era, so you're opening those as other new windows, because you can't just switch through tabs. So opening them up as new windows so that those pages can start loading in case you do want to read them. So you read through the page that you're on and you go, oh yeah, I do want to follow that link. So you switch over to that other new window that you've opened, uh, because otherwise it would take a whole nother minute for that to load. But I remember finding the Elite, and I don't know exactly how I found it. I might have found it through game FAQs. So it was in this kind of era. I think I first used game FAQs to beat Rogue Squadron on the N64. I feel like that's the first time that I get introduced to that because I'd either hired Rogue Squadron for a weekend because this is when video stores were still a thing, and you could hire video games from from VHS, video rental stores. Um, I remember using game FAQs and then finding the forums behind game FAQs. Uh, actually, a bit of a game FAQs side note is that Marshmallow to me was a hero in that little corner of the internet because he published some amazing FAQs. Like if you were scanning through the list of FAQs on GameFAQs and you saw one from Marshmallow, you would go to that one. I had no idea that he was like a speedrunning legend or anything like that. He would to me Marsh was famous because of his FAQ output. I didn't know about the FAQ. I didn't recognize FAQ God until later. I do remember reading the GoldenEye Fast Times guide at the time and thinking, what the fuck? I just couldn't conceive this kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, these guys need to do something else with their time. What are they? Why are they doing this? But yeah, Marsh was a name that I remember coming up regularly when I would find game FAQs. And so I feel like it's probably through that rabbit hole that I found the front page of the Elite and the GoldenEye World Records. And I just found that, and I looked at it, and it's just times and initials, and I'm looking at them and going, they're cheaters. They're absolutely cheaters. There is no way that you can beat Damn in under a minute. Literally no way. Because I knew that strafing moved you faster, but the way that I thought that strafing worked was, oh shit, I'm gonna have to turn the console on to show this off. But I knew that strafing moved you faster, but I didn't actually have enough brains to work it out. So what I would do is I'd move in these giant S shapes. So where's my, let's switch over. So what I was actually doing was fucking stupid. S is for strafing, that's right. So, like, I would have been playing, I was definitely playing on full screen. I wasn't playing 1.1, I would have been playing 1.2 because I was better than 1.1. But, like, I would move like this, these big S shapes, because that meant that it was strafing. See, I'm strafing. Look, Mum, I'm strafing. Now, now I can see that that's actually no different than just C-upping the whole way. But at the time, like, this was moving fast. This is what I would have done in order to unlock that damn essay in 239. We've been doing this. And I would have still been scared of all of the guards, so I would have been taking out guards and stuff like that too. Big S shapes. And of course I would have stopped to do that. At least with 1.28, if you look up, you get a bit more slow. And look how fast this is. Look at all this strafing. Probably would have stopped to turn for the corner and then just gone straight off. Look at this. Look at this. It's a damn agent 134. You know, it would have been stuff like that. So, like, I didn't think that I didn't think that you could go fast enough to get to the end in a minute. Like, I just didn't think that it was possible. I thought they had at least turned turbo mode on, or they had found some other cheats or hacks. I just could not fathom that that they were able to play the game Yeah, they were. So I'd written them off as cheaters and not really playing the game, and had moved on. Um, Played a bunch of GameCube stuff, um, and then I had a bit more money because I had my Kmart job, and I would be keen to work Sundays with my time and a half. I think I think by the time when I turned, you got a pay raise every time that you got a new age. So I think when I turned 16, I started getting $8 an hour, which became $12 an hour on Sundays. Yeah, that's some good money. That's some good money right there. Um, and so yeah, I played a bunch of that sort of stuff. Um, then I moved away, went to I moved away to the city, moved to Melbourne to go to uni. Um, I'm kind of lucky that in some ways, like, um, like I was a bit of a terrible student at uni. Um, in some ways, I'm kind of lucky that I didn't find speed gaming then, but then also I was still doing terrible things, like being a really, when I say terrible things, I just mean I was a really bad student. I wouldn't study, and then I'd rock up to an exam or do a, because I just wasn't interested in what I was studying. So yeah, I feel like the first year I went to uni, I didn't take my GameCube with me, and I feel like I left it at home because I remember I would still go home most weekends, and there was this kind of turning point then. So I would have been 18, and my youngest brother would have been 13 at the time. And the reason I know that I didn't take my GameCube away for the first year at least was I have this really clear memory about going home every weekend and playing Smash with my youngest brother. And so I mained. Didn't know it was called maining at the time, but Samus was my main, and then I would when he um, and then I would switch over and play with Fox sometimes. But throughout that year, I could see my youngest brother getting better progressively to the point where he could actually start beating me, because what was happening is I'd go to uni and I'd do whatever I did at uni, which is mostly just partying. I would just drink a lot. Um, I didn't study. um, and then I would come home on the weekend and I would play a couple of hours of Smash with my youngest brother, and he started beating me because I wouldn't be playing the game throughout the entire week, and then while he's spending the entire week like in some Dragon Ball Z time zone where he working out, he's playing against three level 9 characters to try and get good enough to beat me. And so eventually he started beating me pretty frequently. But that was kind of like a turning point where finally my youngest brother was better at me at video games. It was interesting, interesting kind of moment. But this is into 2005. Video content on the internet still is pretty uncommon. Like, if you weren't there, you wouldn't get it. But I remember stumbling across the Elite again. I'd forgotten that they existed. I stumbled across the Elite again, and again scrolled through that front page and go, "Those fucking cheaters! There's no way they can do that." And every 2 or 3 years, I would stumble across the Elite and just think to myself, "Fucking cheaters!" Every time. Um, but yeah, I was a terrible uni student. It was really bad. I failed way too much, and after 2 years, I stopped uni for a little while, and I went out and got a full time job, and that was a good move. And this is in the era of Guitar Hero, so we're talking and you're talking 2007, Guitar Hero was such a thing that me and a bunch of mates went on a big holiday. So there's 10 of us that went on holiday together. And one of my mates packed his PlayStation 2 and two guitar controllers so that we could play Guitar Hero while we were on holidays. Like Guitar Hero was mental in that kind of era. Um, I guess at least now, if I'm starting to talk 2007, video content had started to be a thing. YouTube had been a thing, but I mean, I remember pre-YouTube. I've probably actually still got it in my favorites somewhere, but like a Google video link to some like there was a Super Mario Brothers 3. It turned out to be a TAS, but it was a video that I just thought it was some insane game player that was getting like billions and billions of one-ups on Bowser's Castle. Like that's probably that's the first time that I ever saw a speed run happening. It might have been a TAS, but that was the first time I actually saw a speed run. And then I went back to uni at the start of 2008, and I kind of stopped gaming a little. Well, I slowed down with my gaming around then. I tried some. I spent more time playing guitar and music and that sort of stuff. And I became familiar with Justin TV. I I actually wasn't watching any gaming stuff on there. What I was watching was there are broadcasters on Justin TV that would just stream old Formula One races. So I would get on there and if I didn't have anything else going on, if I didn't feel like listening to music or whatever, I would open up a Justin TV stream and look around and look for Formula One motorsport streams. So I watched all that kind of stuff. So um, I'm gonna take a pause to go and refill my water there. But if you've got any questions in chat, feel free to add them on, and I'll be back shortly. So I have instead of water, I've got beer. Uh, have a maybe I should have been doing this the whole time. Maybe I should have been doing it like this the whole time. Anyway, probably not because I don't know. Growing this facial hair out at the moment, it doesn't really. That's a joke gone too far. Anyway, Hop Nation Jedi Juice is the beer. Sorry, it's J Juice these days. It used to be. You can see how it looks like a little bit like Princess Leia might, but and also it's the green behind was once a Yoda head, but you can imagine that they got a cease and desist from Lucasfilm. Anyway, here's your can ASMR. Cheers. So, all of this is like the origin of the origin story. Like none of this has even um, got to the start of this. And there's, I guess, something that I haven't mentioned, or someone that I haven't mentioned through any of this yet, is Tara. So I was with Tara and I got together when I was 17 back in 2003. And then we got married in 2013. So we went to Thailand for our honeymoon. And I have this really strange memory of that, sitting around a pool doing, reading something. And it's a reasonably reflective period of your life, or at least it was for me, thinking about the things that you have and haven't done and want to do. And strangely, one of the things that popped into my mind that I had not done was Finnish Banjo-Kazooie. I'd never finished Banjo-Kazooie. I'd actually gotten to Grunty's Furnace Fun twice, and this youngest brother that I was talking about earlier had he'd deleted my file both times at Grunty's Furnace Fun, so I basically completed the game twice, but had never actually finished it. So I was thinking about the things that it had done, wanted to do, and strangely on the list of things that I wanted to do, it was I want to finish Banjo Kazooie. So came home from Thailand and took the. Fortunately, like with the NES, my parents never make us get rid of any of our old consoles, so they were still all around. Um, and so pulled out the N64 from the cupboard. We never actually had a. One of the reasons why I probably never finished it is because we didn't actually have a copy of Banjo Kazooie. It was always just borrowed off a friend. So I then had to get on to. It was Gumtree that I got Banjo Kazooie off of, which is like a Craigslist or Kijiji type thing, online classifieds basically. And I remember meeting this guy in a car park outside some Lazy Moe's restaurant, which is so weird. But anyway, I picked up a copy of Banjo Kazooie off him. I spent $20 on it, I think, which I felt like I was overpaying, but I got it and I played through Banjo Kazooie, and that kind of started me off down a retro gaming rabbit hole. So I started looking at YouTube videos around retro gaming and collecting video games, and but a lot of it was kind of retro focused. So I got a whole bunch of N64 games. I've got a box of about 150, I think. Uh, so yeah, tons of old video games. Spent a lot of time playing that. That was going down that rabbit hole was how I ended up back again with a CRT. So the CRT that I've got is a chunky Sony one, and the reason why I ended up with that CRT was because it's got component inputs. So I wanted to get, you know, a really decent connection. Um, so I was basically getting the CRT for trying to get the best CRT that I could. I won it on eBay for 99 cents, and when I got there to pick it up, the guy didn't even want the 99 cents. So I've got this chunky Trinitron that is, yeah, as you say, Goose, it is a desirable CRT, and all I paid for it was the fuel to to drive my car there and get it. Um, and I remember in a similar sort of time was when I, started to see a little bit more speed running sort of stuff. I remember I was still well and truly a normie at this point, but Narcissa's 1810 was everywhere. Um, it was impossible to. This is probably when I used Facebook, and I don't use Facebook anymore. But like the Ocarina of Time 1810 was everywhere. Um, all the sort of stuff. It was unavoidable to know that that had happened. And then I remember I can't. Well, I don't know whether it was before or after. I have to go and check the dates on this. But I also remember around a similar sort of time, Boson's Silo DLTK run happening, and uh, I remember seeing Boson's webcam footage and looking at the dot on his screen and thinking, why the fuck would you ruin a perfectly good CRT by putting a dot on the screen? Like that was what I got focused on. It's like, I couldn't comprehend committing so heavily to one game that you would modify your CRT in order to make it better for that one game. I just couldn't. Right, so Boson DK is 2013. So that's right as there. So um I got married at the end of February 2013. So it was in kind of February and March is when that was when I've gone down that rabbit hole. So it's kind of just as I'm getting back into gaming after being focusing more on music and guitar and stuff for a few years. So 1810 2014 sounds about right. And I guess I still went deeper and deeper down the retro gaming rabbit hole without getting into speed gaming until it would have been. I know that it was the start of 2016 because I looked that up before I started this because I had dinner with a friend and he was a hyper nerd. I always think of him as one of the nerdiest guys I've ever known. And so we were talking about TV shows that we've been watching. He's like, oh, I've been watching something that you might be interested in. I've been watching these GDQs. I'm like, the fuck is a GDQ? He's like, oh, so it's like they try to beat games as fast as possible. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. So I started watching GDQs. So like plenty of people, GDQs the entry point for me. There's a few runs that are the reason that I know it was 2016 um, is I remember looking at the most recent videos that had come out, and naturally you kind of gravitate towards games that you're interested in and that you watch. So Majora's Mask is probably my favorite game of all time. Certainly, um, it's one of my standouts. One of the ones that I go back to semi regularly. And so I remember watching the Majora's Mask run that had four different players have it. So I think it was Margin Phil, Trev Person, uh, Full Grown Gaming might have been one of them, and I've forgotten who the other guy is. Sorry to the other guy. um, but I remember watching that run, and that's I watched a few others. I would have watched, you know, I already mentioned Banjo-Kazooie, so I definitely would have watched some of the Banjo-Kazooie runs from around that time. Um, and yeah, watched, it would have been majority N64 type stuff, because N64 has always been my console because it came out at the right time. It's always been the one that I kind of gravitated back to. Um, and then I don't know, it must have been nearly 18 months later. So it obviously found speedrun.com, would occasionally look through the records on speedrun.com. And I found, would have found F1 World Grand Prix on speedrun.com. And there was, because you just, well, I at least anyway, would look at any game that I've played. What's the world record on this? So F1 World Grand Prix has always been interesting to me because it's got a challenge mode that pretty much no F1 game after had it. So it wasn't just win the races to win the championship. It actually dropped you into a scenario, and you had to complete that scenario basically. And so I looked at the F1 World Grand Prix rankings on speedrun.com, and it was like 2 hours for the fastest completion of that. And I looked at that and I thought to myself, I'm sure I actually beat it faster than that back in the day. I'm sure I could do it better than that. So I'm like, all right, what are we gonna do? And I get on eBay and I buy myself like a 7, because I know by this time I already know at least enough about speedrunning culture to go, no vid, no did. Got to get a vid. So I go on eBay, I order a $7 Easy Cap knockoff, because I don't know that I'm really going to want to do this streaming thing or speedrunning thing, but I know that you want to record a video and you want to stream it in order to make sure it's legit. So I get this $7 Easy Cap. It comes in the mail, and I remember I went out for. These are the heady days of being able to work in the office. This feels so weird to talk about it, but it wasn't uncommon. The job that I was in at the time, it was pretty common for me to go and get lunch and a couple of beers with some mates on a Friday. So, what are you going to do this weekend? Standard kind of office conversation. Oh, I've had a look at the world record for a video game, and I'm going to go and try and beat it this weekend because I'm pretty sure I can. I remember saying that to them about F1 World Grand Prix. So I did. The time, I think I should actually, let's go have a look. The time, at the world record at the time was about 2 hours. Yeah, it was Dracula 13's 152. And so I looked at it, I'm like, yeah, I can definitely go faster than that. So yeah, there's definitely video. Have a look at obsolete runs. F1 World Grand Prix. Oh no, that's World Grand Prix 2. So this is my first run from 4 years ago. Oh, I've clicked on the game. Speedrun.com's a fucking weird website. If you click on different things, you get that. So first attempt. It's still on my Twitch channel. In 1 hour 30 from the 4th of September 2017. So I wonder. Oh, come on, it's dead. Surely not. Let's hope it's still on my channel, just the link doesn't work. Can we switch the sort order? Sorted by date. Yes. No, we'll do the other way. Yeah. How you doing, Corey? Is the one? All right. I hope that this is. I hope that this is the run. No, it's not because it's already got 130 there. Hmm. I wonder if the original 130 has gone. Has been. It might be lost media. It might have been lost in. Might have been lost in one of the great Twitter purges. Looks like it's not going. This is the kind of quality of my stream anyway at the time. Here I am driving with no wheels on. So I wouldn't play that much, but I'd play a little bit to keep pushing that record. To keep pushing that record a little bit lower. Like, let's have a look. See here at stats. So challenge mode any percent. It started out at 152, which is Dracula's time, and then I'd get 130, and I'd kind of progressively work it down to like a 127 or something. And then I think there was a rule change, which is, yeah, there was a rule change because it wasn't really any percent. There was a weird rule on it where you had to. It was basically like an all dungeons route, so you had to do all of the races. So it wasn't really a true 20%. You couldn't just unlock the last race and do the last race. So then I argued that there should have been a rule change to make it a proper any percent category, and that got agreed to. And so I immediately got like a 16-minute cut to get down to 111, and then through all of this though, there's this fellow called Zodastone, and what I didn't know at the time was none of these are actually truly world records, because Zodastone had actually had a time at 100% that was 126 that he'd done back then. And so I've gone down the Google rabbit hole trying to work out, do I really have the world record here? And no, all right, this bloke actually has 100% time faster than I can do it, and any quote unquote any percent time. So Zodastone is the proper master of the game, and he basically got a world record sweep, which is worthwhile. Although, hang on, he's been knocked off. Zodastone is no longer the. There must have been a time save. 35 minutes. Maybe I need to come out of retirement here. But that was my introduction to speed gaming. Was playing playing challenge mode on F1 World Grand Prix. The one and only Chin himself. Well, the Chin's Michael Schumacher, but that's the square jaw. So yeah, this is the quality that I would broadcast in, because I think I could stream in like 700 kilobits at most. Like, it was trash. But at least the capture card worked for F1 World Grand Prix, because it's really quite a bright game. So you can see that it's not good quality, but you can at least see what's going on. So it's not so bad. But I remember picking up GoldenEye. It was around this kind of time. In fact, it's exactly around this time where I pick up GoldenEye, not as a speed game, but to play around with. So I where are we? I had still at this point in my life, into 2017, I've turned 30 now, and again, thinking about things that I've never done, I've never finished GoldenEye in Double O Agent mode. So what I decide that I want to do is I want to play through GoldenEye and do that. So I remember getting this is me in October 2017, unlocking the invincibility cheat on Facility, with the famous words, I doubt I'll ever be fast enough for the elite.net, but 20 years in the making, I've finally unlocked the invincibility cheat. And then not so long after that, I think my goal was basically, as I was going through, I was trying to unlock the cheats as I went through. So this would have been right towards the start of my gameplay. But I remember, actually, it's funny. So this is how I refound the elite again. Was I looked at um, the speedrun strategies in order to try and get under 2 minutes. So I don't have there's no video. I wasn't recording to get one from when I got 149, but I reckon that I probably use the same strats, as this is an early speed run of mine. I reckon this is probably going to use very similar strats. Although this is from like 12 months later, so it's from December 2018. This is probably going to use similar strats. Because despite the fact that I watched a speed run, I still didn't try and do. I didn't do proper speed run strats. Although this looks speedrunnery, this is after I've already started playing the game, so I'm probably time skipping a bit here. But I'm still, running around like a madman. I'm on Japanese cartridge too. What the fuck am I doing? Hang on, am I playing for open door? I'm playing for like a slow cycle open door pace. What the fuck is this run? So what I was expecting to do here was to actually switch to mines and throw a mine at those three guards to take these three guards out. I'm pretty sure that's what I would have done on my 149. Insane run. This run is mental. How do I even live? Oh man, I'm gonna get destroyed in the labs making this much noise. What the fuck am I doing? I don't even have best doke. This would have been a 118 with best doke. And I'm fully getting the head look around thing going on that I'm infamous for. Crazy. Oh, open the door, but got to turn around to. Oh, insane run. Insane run. Look at these bottle strats. I mean, 52 is still the world record at this point. Look at my face. I'm like, I'm gonna live. I'm gonna live. Uh, Crazy times. So I hadn't. Um, the reason I know I hadn't even done that is because this is a couple of weeks later. This is into November, and this is when I finally unlocked 007 mode for the first time. Oh, my present place is blocking my past face. What a shame. What a shame. Do I need to fix my layout? Here we go. Two of these. Um, so I finally unlocked 007 mode in November 2017 was when I'd done that. A Gilly Guide is getting on the. There we go. Yeah, so I've finally unlocked 007 mode. This is end of 2017, and I remember messing around with GoldenEye speedrunning a bit at the time. I'm trying to at the end of 2017. I'd got the world record in inverted commas, on F1 World Grand Prix, so I was looking for another game to play that actually had some active players. So I picked up Mario Kart and I messed around with Mario Kart for a bit. I did a few all cups runs. I played around with Goldeneye for a little bit. Um, and I duped Runway 26 a few times. I could not go faster than Runway 26. And so I stopped speedrunning for a little while. Um, I think I came back and did some more challenge mode runs again later. Like, let's have a look. No, this isn't here. Um, yeah, so like I reckon this is going to be. Oh, this is still November 2017. Um, when this is all going on. But oh, that's right. So I had F1 World Grand Prix 2, so there was a sequel. So I came back and I did some speed runs of that. And then towards the end of 2018, I don't exactly know how it came up. It might have been recommended to me in YouTube, but um, the Fletcher video series started popping up. The introduction video series came up, and I that was the tipping point that actually made me finally get in and start playing, and they're kind of runs that were that quality. You know, I had the capture card. What's my first time it was posted? It was the 5th of December 2018. I reckon I'd probably been playing for a month at that point and hadn't just hadn't actually been posting any times. But yeah, this is December 2018. This December 2018 where I'm kind of playing this, trying to get Dam. Um, yeah, Dam 56 is what I'm going for. So I started playing the game, and so yeah, I guess I probably wouldn't be here without Fletcher. So those tutorials were there was something, and I guess I started out playing the game predominantly for time ranks because I was just wasn't good enough at all to be thinking about points. And I remember um, there was two players that were posting times around a similar sort of time that I remember having my eye on. So uh, there's one fellow who is reasonably well known these days. So Cytosis, I had my eye on. Had to had to knock this guy off. He would post a time. He probably I wasn't engaging with the community, and also nobody knew. He certainly didn't know that he was my rival. But there's another guy as well who's not around anymore. Um, Colbol. So this guy was the top ranked Callum at the time. I was like, I want to be the top ranked Callum. That's my goal. So yeah, what's his sub 2 hours? Sub 2 hours is his time. So actually, it was a pretty really good goal to start out with. Um, was to try and be the top ranked Callum on the elite rankings. That's what I wanted to do. So played a bit. Um, I think I joined the forums around then. I think I joined Discord a little bit later. Um, and this was in the era of the I don't even know what kind of era you want to call it, but it was the 500 point era. So you needed to score 500 points in order to make your way from Noob Network into lobby. There was a very clear gap, and I was so far away from 500 points. It was just insanely far away from 500 points. It was never going to happen for me. Um, I can't even remember who particularly gave me the advice, but somebody's advice was to play Depot for 26. So this, I guess I already knew that my quality wasn't going to be good enough to meet the proof standard. Like if you watch this, this is the same capture card that I was using for those F1 World Grand Prix runs, and it's fine in F1 World Grand Prix because it's a really bright game. But for GoldenEye, like, look at, if you want to see just how bad it is, like the look at the roller doors, and so like you'd see it's all soft and blurry, and where it's bright. And I had this insane, oh, I forgot about this. I had this insanely janky setup in order to get the audio capture to work right as well with this capture card. So what if I plugged the N64 straight? No, actually I didn't. How did I do that? I can't remember. I had S video cable as well, so but the way that I was listening to it was I had a headphone out. Look at this run. 2.x for 26. I had a headphone output coming out of the TV that would then go to another set of speakers that I had a Y splitter on, and I would send that Y splitter from one set to this like little set of speakers and one set to the capture card in order to capture audio. I don't know why I was doing that. I think I didn't have a way to split the signal or something. There's some insane setup, but I remember sitting there, and this is the first time that I sat there for 3 or 4 hours in that day and played that. I didn't do the poorly thing of using that, but I was using 2.x, and I did, as I do now, tape the controllers up, so they were all taped across the top, because for some reason holding one mass makes more sense to me than like totally freeballing it. It's one less thing for my brain to focus on. But yeah, Depot 26 was my first points, and it still wasn't super connected at the time. I remember actually Sharp said something in Noobnet to me, which was, looking forward to when the GV USB 2 arrives, because you're going to get some good times or something like that. There was Noobnet was really fun at that time. In some ways, there's an innocence to it. You don't know what you got when it's going on, and these days the general channel is pretty dead. But yeah, I enjoyed being a part of Noobnet at that time. There was also a lot of talk from Berg about the Runway 21 developments going on, and nobody in lobby would actually believe any of the shit that he was talking about. So he'd come to general and talk about it. And that was fun times. I didn't get anything particularly interesting, but I did get some. I did get a Runway 22. I got it pretty quickly, all things considered. So I think following on from Depot 26 was my first points. A couple of weeks later, it would have been Runway SA 23, which is, yeah, I think February. And you can maybe, if my head isn't covering, yeah, you can see this is my old house. And then I moved house, and I got Runway 22. It looks like it took me like a month, but it really didn't take me that long. I think as a completely new player, I think it took me 15 hours or something in total. It wasn't so bad. But as I play through the run, you'll see why it only took me 15 hours. It's because the guards really, really, really wanted me to have 22. That not as much as they wanted a homegrown doofus to get 22 on SA, but like the guards gave me some really good boosts here. But I didn't get anything particularly interesting. You can see here you can see here that my quality is much better because it started capturing it in using GB USB 2. And so something that's and I'll let this video play while I keep talking about other stuff, but The funny thing for Runway 22 for me was was playing it the night before because Tara had a friend over, so they were downstairs just having a glass of wine and talking shit. So I was upstairs and playing some Runway. I probably played about 3 hours and had plenty of runs that I thought, of course, thought was it, but couldn't get it. And then this video goes for 10 minutes, and I think 3 minutes of it at the end are just the end screen. 2 minutes of it at the end screen. So I, this is my entire session for when I actually got Runway 22. I got it in 10 minutes the next morning. I went downstairs, made myself a cup of coffee, and you can see that I'm every time I get to the end, I'm probably actually waiting the cinema, and that's not because I think that I've got the time. It's because I'm just using that as a time to have another sip of coffee. Um, so yeah, it was pretty wild kind of time. Uh, Eventually, a little bit deeper into April, I think was when I got 500 points. So I think my 500 points that I got at the time would have been and we got Depot 26, Runway SA 23, Runway 22, Runway 0039, I think S2 SA 56, Bunker 117, and Cabs 103. And then I think I got Dam 53. Was There's like 8 times to get there, but like some of those times are dead now. Like Cabs 103 is dead, that's for sure. Surface 2 SA 56 is probably pretty close to dead if it's not. Um, that was enough to get me 500 points, which got me in the lobby. That started getting me a little bit more connected into the community at Wide, and then I got no idea why I got picked by Zed in League 2019. I didn't think I was a good. I thought I was a good pick, but I was an idiot. But I did get picked. I ended up being the second best contributor on the Z Press in 2019. So maybe I wasn't quite such a terrible pick as I'm making myself out to be. But I think Timmy got more points than I did, but I think I got the second most points for the team. So it did okay. But somewhere around, the Dr. Light League, exactly. Somewhere around there in kind of like April, I got a DM from Alka. And Alka says to me, "Oh, I'm going to be in Melbourne. You're in Melbourne, right? I'm going to be in Melbourne for a speed cubing tournament." So Alka's over here for the what is it, Rubik's Cube speed event. Do you want to meet up? Sure, why not? So, and then Alka's like, "Oh, Monday's the end of the day." I'm like, "Oh, well, I'll take a Monday off work and we can hang out." And then I'm like, "Well, if I'm meeting up with Alka, I might as well try and meet up with a few other people." So invited Wally, Luke. Luke had kind of been a bit disconnected from the community in that time, so I I invited Luke to come along as well. Samo, I hadn't even talked about Samo. Samo was a really good resource at that time because this is the PTR era. League 2019 was also the Samo League where he started actually playing for points. And when Samo's time page was the PTR, as a new player, it was really useful as a resource to compare myself to Samo and see where all the PTRs were and see how far I was off all of the PTRs. That was a really cool time. Like, I almost feel like it'd be worthwhile setting up a dummy player that's just got all of the PTRs across all of the stages, so that new players can compare themselves to the PTR champ. But so yeah, I invited Samo and Wally to come along, and that was the first Oz meet, which yeah, I was glad everybody came along. That was a bit of a shock to get along so well with most of those guys. And it's I guess it's evolved to the point these days where Um, I'll put a just waiting screen on for us to go have some dinner or something, and then we'll go, oh yeah, shit, we're still streaming, but we've been downstairs talking shit for like 90 minutes or 2 hours just with a back soon screen on Twitch. So it's kind of cool to have been able to develop some of those, you know, aside from the online relationships, which is in the last 18 months has been really useful. Some of those in-person relationships I guess I'm glad to have developed those as well, and that might not have happened if Alka hadn't have been in Melbourne for a speed cubing tournament. That was the genesis of the first meet. Um, and then I don't. I guess that following, it was around that kind of period. For some reason, I was just kind of fascinated with what kind of jobs people had, um, and that was my trigger point for starting MateChat. Basically, I basically wanted to start a poll, and maybe I should still do that on the forum about what. And I know some people are more private than others about it, so that's probably why I didn't progress it. But about what jobs people did and how they fit that around speedrunning. Um, so that was the kind of genesis of the idea that started MateChat off. Um, so the one question that I guess I had that I wanted to ask people, what job do you do? Which is not really where it's gone at all, but that was where the thought process started. And then um, I thought about who can help me set the tone for it. And by this point, I guess Steve, and I had developed a pretty good online relationship. So I thought that he was also a slightly older fellow who was close to my age. So I had a few other things going on around his life that he might be able to talk about. So I thought that he might be able to help me set the tone for what mate chat is. Um, and then, well, if you're talking about the top rankings in Goldeneye at the moment, I mean, who's number one in Goldeneye at the moment is a fellow who's gainfully employed. Number two is a fellow who's gainfully employed. Similar with number three. Number four is studying, I think, so there's not just there, but certainly historically a lot of that a lot of that would be true. Um, but I just kind of found it. That was the trigger point. So yeah, started that, and then um, oh, there's the 22 again. So that was the kind of start point for Mate Chat. Uh, it's developed a fair bit since then into its own kind of thing, but I didn't you know I just wanted to start doing something for the mates. I didn't even want to call it Mate Chat. Mate Chat was just what Steve called it in because he was streaming before the thing. I was like, oh yeah, I want to do this kind of like podcast interview style thing with you. And then on the stream that Steve had before it, he just labeled his stream pre-Mate Chat stream. So that was where the title came from. Steve titled it. Um, because he was streaming and then he hosted my stream for the chat. So that was where things kind of kicked off. Um, and then into the start of 2020 was basically that, I've kind of talked about this on the forum before and in Discord, but that was the my marriage ended around then, and so I'd kind of we weren't into the depths of COVID yet. So what I was doing, I was going to work, coming home, and then I was playing Goldeneye for 4 or 5 hours, and I was streaming a bunch of that too. So I jumped from 500 or 600 points up to 1,000 odd points in a couple of months there. And something kind of sticks with me still to this day was a comment that Irie made around a similar sort of time, which is sometimes the best speed running moments of your life also just coincide with the worst moments of your real life. And that's it's not that's certainly not untrue for me. It's a place where you can it's a place where you can go to basically. I think is why the two of those have the inverse relationship there. Um, I didn't even talk. I skipped by in all of that the double feature stuff. So at the end of like at the end of League 2019, EC sent me a message and said to me, yeah, this is before K4 has actually come out, but EC was keen on doing a horde, so he'd kind of signed us up, and I said, yeah, I'll play along with that, and so he started. EC posted a teaser video into lobby, which just said player two. Didn't so everybody knew that EC was going to be hoarding, but they didn't know who player two was. And then we had a Discord server that was just it was me and EC, and then there were I think Yendis and Pogo were in there as well. So Yendis and like the idea was generally like trying to make it like Century Club, so to have some newer players doing a horde. And Yendis and Pogo were in there for a bit of moral support and to help us out because we still didn't really, well, certainly from my perspective, I didn't know the game very well. Um, and EC really, and EC definitely didn't know the game well, which is basically what caused it to end. So I woke up one morning um, a few weeks after we'd kind of agreed to do the horde thing, and EC just had enough of it and posted. Just he posted he's cancelled the horde. So I've woken up and I've like posted my times that I've been hoarding. This one here, Aztec SA 152, is one of them, and it wasn't the time that I was going to be hoarding. I was going to be playing for lower. It just happened to be a PB that I got along the way. But I remember I was posted this, and I posted as a I think I got control 40, might have even been 403, and there was a comment from Ricky at the time, which made me laugh. And it just said, "Oh no, K4 is ruined with a 10-point unhoard," which we were never going for what K4 was ruined, but that just kind of made me laugh. But the time there was one goal time that I did achieve while I was playing for that. So actually, I should show this one first. So the only goal time that I did actually achieve, and it's kind of been smashed now with the way that new strats are worked out, but like it was 76 odd points when I got Surface 131, and I wasn't sure exactly what my goal time was going to be, but I got this time first, which was 134. And so I was talking to Wally, and so Wally said, yeah, like I hadn't told anybody except for Wally, like was like, oh yes, Surface 200 could be a cool time. You should learn how to play that. So I started playing around with that and got a few tips, and then I got this run, which I turn around and pick the grenade up, and it's still a 134. Um, and this is kind of like oh shit, I've got to go lower. I was actually thinking I might get like 133, maybe 132. Um, but I'd seemingly got not entirely terrible at the level, and I got 134 with turning around for the grenade, like with this kind of level of cringe. But I also, because I was hoarding it, I didn't have to post this cringe. Nobody knew that my 134 had that kind of cringe because I'd posted my 10 point unhoard, and then at the end of my 10 point unhoard, I mean the rest of it looks probably pretty much the same as the this is 134 again. Um, Probably looks pretty much the same as this. Yeah, it was pretty cooked third cam. There was it was a regular. The rest of the run's going to look like this. Where actually it's not like a window cam or anything like that. Um, but yeah, I only posted the 131, so nobody had to see my shame of that 134. um, as For a long time, this 131 was I called it my most interesting time because it's it was my first time that was worth a decent chunk of points. That wasn't just like a boring four time or something like that. I wasn't using uh, I wasn't using like insane strats, but I was using reasonable strats here. Like I didn't use the window strat. I just shot through the like. But that moment there always frustrated me because there was two clips at the second cam, and I was really consistent at the second cam doing it quite well. But for whatever reason, this run that did complete was a bad second cam. But so yeah, I've posted my other not so good times. Um, and Ricky goes, "Oh yeah, you're ruining K4 with a 10 point on Horde." And then I post this, which is worth 76 or something, and then I think Ricky goes, "Oh yeah, okay." So that wasn't too bad. Um, so yeah, that was my Horde experience, and I think with the exception of Taspap that I'll get to in a little bit, that's probably the last Horde that I'll ever really be a part of because I felt really awkward not having that posted. It just felt really weird, like having these times not posted. And I'm not going to say never because I'm not going to say never because who knows, maybe something will change. And it was while I was hoarding that I actually developed that movement where I always kind of end I I always end the cursor on the top of the S here in between the shot total and head hits. Because in the capaps, I always noticed how Luke moved his cursor up to here, and I just thought that was a cool kind of signature. So I wanted to develop my own signature, which yeah was basically moving the cursor down to this kind of bottom left area. Um, so that was when I developed that while I was playing for the cancelled double feature on Horde. Um, and then I guess going on to League last year, I played a bunch of Perfect Dark for League last year. I don't have much more points in there, and like, I guess I talked a while ago about how Perfect Dark was the game that I've jonesed for harder than any other ever. Um, it's I'm not sure why it just hasn't quite clicked with me the same way that GoldenEye has. Like the general mechanics are all obviously the same, but it just hasn't. There's some sort of simple charm to GoldenEye that grabs me a little bit deeper than Perfect Dark does. And Perfect Dark is from a casual perspective, it's a better game. It's a clearer, it's easier to follow. The graphics are better. Um, from a multiplayer perspective, it's probably better too. Um, but yeah, League last year was the first time that I've really kind of played anything there. But um, last year I was in again. I was the second in 2020. I think I was the second best player in my team, or maybe the third best player. No, I would have been the third best player because Zella was on our team, and Zella just went beast mode, of course. Um, and then BK was also on the team, but uh, look, the best. I'm gonna go back to Goldeneye for the best moment of that though, which was the frigate 115. So uh, the excellent weekly that got introduced that year was Paulie's, around the grounds, all um, you need a PB on every single level. So somebody needed to play frigate. I said that I could probably get a reasonably easy PB on frigate double O, which I figured if I used like a modified sort of RTA route, I could. Um, and I worked out the music cue for when my PB at the time was 116, so I needed 115 or lower. And so I worked out what the music cue was for 115, and I just started waiting for that before I would enter the boat because it didn't. It's not like a regular frigate run where you just need to get to the end and get in the boat and hope. I needed 115 for this league daily, and then after I got this time, which magically completed, um, I went back and compared it to some of my 115 and 116 fails, and the music is like frame perfect. It's disturbing. Like this must be a 115.97 boat entry. It's properly insane. But this is one of my favorite league moments ever, was playing this run. And BK, this is a Sunday, so the last day of the week, and me and BK, we're not in a VC, we're just on text chat in the team turnip, chat to each other, and we're kind of encouraging each other, and I'm helping BK to pick levels that he should go and do. Like there's no A on screen. I'm just looking on there. Perfect entry. Wait for a little bit. There we go. That was a wild time. Um, but I went pretty hard during league last year. So um, I kind of mentioned about the events at the start of the year. By March, we were into some form of lockdown. Into June and July, particularly into July, was the second wave that hit Melbourne, and it was in that period I had a bunch of work going on. So I was working insane hours. I was working like 9 a.m. through to at least 9 p.m. Often midnight, um, 5 days a week. And then after that, I would then grind Goldeneye, then grind like Perfect Dark or something for another couple of hours, and then I'd go to bed at like 2 or 3 in the morning, and then wake up. So I'm like living a degenerate lifestyle. I'm like working 12 plus hours a day, and then I'm grinding like a fucking idiot. I'm kind of lucky that was Perfect Dark's so easy to score points on. Um, but yeah, I'd teach myself a level and get points on it in a day. But I was pretty burnt out on the games just in general after that, so I didn't play much through didn't play much through October, through till like October. But it was somewhere in this kind of period. And it might have even been while I was might have even been while I was just casually unlocking my PD cart, because I finally got an English cartridge. And I was streaming, and I threw a host to. There was some guy doing a casual double O agent playthrough, and so I've hosted this guy, and then I've jumped into his chat, and I started talking to him, and I've kind of worked out that he literally lives like less than a kilometer, less than a k kilometer away from me, um, which is pretty disturbing. So this is Will, not Will Zelliver, but Will Lyle, and so it's funny. you know, probably Will, who's now got what control 4 minutes or something on Pal. Like, actually, let's look at Pal. Let's look at control on Pal. Like, I'm not going to claim like sole credit for this, um, but where Will Lyle 4 minutes, you know. And this is just because I hosted him, and then he was. I remember him getting getting archives, and he's like, "Oh yeah," I'm like, "Can you unlock the cheat?" And so we spent 5 minutes or something unlocking the cheat there. Like he's overall, you know, his OCB wasn't too bad, particularly for a casual player, so he could unlock that pretty reasonably. But yeah, this guy who comes along to meets now too is just, would he have been there if it weren't for me just randomly hosting his stream one day? I don't know. Kind of a bit funny that we cross paths like that. And like, so later than, like, this wasn't too much later, this is into November last year, me and Will playing multiplayer and turning on line mode and messing around with that sort of stuff. But yeah, I'd gone pretty hard through League last year. I didn't really feel like playing too much, and then I started playing for like archives 55s in like October, and then it took me until January to get those. So like, overall playtime wasn't too much, but about hours. But as the calendar passed, it was a fair while. And then yeah, I'm just trying to think if I got anything particularly more interesting to stay through there. Not I This year's league was like the don't pick me league. I almost said don't pick me because I didn't think I was going to be a good pick. I wasn't an amazing pick, but it wasn't a completely terrible pick. Quody picked me up for the Cringergarten. Had some fun playing that. I might have been the second or third best player on the team again. I'm probably going to be done with league after this year, but who knows? Maybe not. Um, and then that's where we're kind of up to. What are we? I mean, it's into September now, so we're a little way after league. This question, Dust. I come up with last year. I'd come up with the match cup thing, where the genesis of that was back when I was a bad time ranks player. I was basically terrified of playing control because I was really bad at control. Um, and I figured if I tried to do an RTA race against somebody, even if I could keep pace with them to control, like my PB when I started out was like 5:12. Yeah, here we go. And so I wanted to get rid of control out of RTA, and so I was trying to think about what's a way that I can play that without being penalised too bad. And that was where I'd come up with the general idea about having a simplified score where you just score a point, you don't score time over each other. That was where that all kind of came from. But I feel like I'm at the end of semi interesting things to talk about. None of this feels particularly interesting. Um, but yeah, hopefully that was hopefully part of it. Like the initial concept of it was a bit of, exactly, yeah. So like I'm not a golf fan, but I was familiar with the scoring concept from golf, so that was just where I stole it from. So yeah, the I did have a question. I should go actually check. Icy did send me through a very thought provoking question. Let me pull that out. But open to any questions from chat too. So Icy's question, which was a really interesting one. So, because the community is much more than just getting good times in games, what advice would you give to new people on finding ways to create value? Is a really, really thought-provoking question. There's definitely a lot more to the games than being community. The big thing, and I've kind of dropped this as a boomer, a nugget of boomer wisdom in some other stuff too, but you don't need to ask for permission to do something cool. Like I didn't ask permission to start MateChat. I didn't ask for permission to start the Match Cup. I just kind of had a half an idea, and I let it happen. Um, I've never actually talked to him, but I bet if you talk to Stocks, that he didn't ask permission for starting the first fantasy league when he did that either. You know, like you don't have to, if you want to create a cool community event or something like that, you can do that at any time. You don't need permission to be able to do it. You can just go and do it. So yeah, if you want to do something, don't. If you want their input, by all means, ask for their input, but don't ask for their permission. Like I've been operating on, like, professionally. I've been operating on the theory, ask for forgiveness, not for permission, for the better part of a decade, and I haven't been fired yet. So, it's much easier to go and get something done by just going and doing it. And if if there, you're not gonna hurt anybody by just going and doing it, basically. So, I mean, if you're going to hurt somebody by going and doing it, then you should know that before you were going to do it. So, yeah, cool. So I wasn't aware of that, Goose, but yeah, just go and create. Like, you don't need the same, like, you don't need permission from speedrunners to go and make speedrun.com. Like, you don't need permission from elites to go and make speedrun.com. Just create speedrun.com for all of the other communities that don't have a site that is as cool as the elite. Like we were just looking at the control version rankings. Like, this is an awesome feature that has just been done because Grease Pig wanted to see it. So it's again another way, like, this is another way that you can create value around the community by just doing something cool. Is you can expand the website. This this feature around the version rankings, it didn't exist 6 months ago. The feature that I'm about to use when I do, when I'm finished talking shit about myself, I'm gonna go through and watch all of my current PBs, so you can filter to only current. Apply this. Is this TXR that added this service? This has only been added in the last, like, 3 months. This is another really cool way to create value for the community, create something useful for the community. Like, whether it's doing something in Discord, whether it's just being the welcome wagon for, Big Dub is the welcome wagon for everybody that joins into Discord in general channel. Like, don't underestimate how useful that is and how much friendlier it makes the entire elite look just by one person saying g'day or welcome when any old rando joins in the general channel. That's useful. So that there's so many places outside of playing the game that you can do that. Like, Icy creates plenty of value just by thinking aloud and dropping ideas in chat and and coming up with new strategies, right? Like, that's a whole thing into itself. Like, the community wouldn't be anywhere near as advanced as it is without having TASs like Henrik and Ted and Icy to be able to push some of those ideas and prove stuff. Basically, you need to be able to prove or falsify stuff. So you don't have to play the game to be able to do that. You don't need to play the game, the theory, new strats and stuff. It probably helps so that you're not coming up with completely useless strats if you can at least play the game to a semi-reasonable level to either prove or disprove your strats rather than just throwing ideas out there. But yeah, there's other ways that you can do it. Even just being active in people's chat. There's Dickus Khan and Moonraker and other guys that I'm guaranteed to be forgetting right now, but they don't exist in other parts of the community, but they're active in chat, and that's useful. That's interesting. It creates some sense of community. Um, being a small streamer, if being active in chat can help move whatever conversation is. It's not just going to be the streamer looking at their game and nothing happening. So all of that sort of stuff is ways that people can add value or create value around the community. There's got to be dozens of ways to do it that I haven't even thought about. All of Yendis's front page posts. That's really cool. Like all these news updates and all that kind of stuff. Super cool, right? Like takes plenty of time to write. Plenty of time to write all of this sort of stuff. But this is really useful and interesting, and I can't tell you the amount of times where I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, oh, I would like to consume some sort of GoldenEye information or content, but I want to hear about it in a way that is informative. I don't want to have to go through and find it all out for myself. I want to learn about it. So stuff like Yendis's posts here, or Jerice's post outlining the time history of Marx 101. Fascinating read. And this is from a bloke who doesn't even speak English as his primary language. Well, neither does Yendis, for fuck's sake. So there's being active in the forum is actually really useful. The forum is cool. I mean, I know that I'm a super internet boomer for thinking that. But yeah, the forum being still around and still relevant is actually really useful. So yeah, I'll stop blabbing there. If there's any other questions, I'll field them before I move on to my section 3. Alright. So the other thing that I wanted to do is I'm going to go through chronologically. Oh,